As usual, rituals are worthless. I was going to try to light a candle as I usually do, but somehow, let me try once more.
Yeah, use both hands. Magic.
This is a perfect metaphor for Community Church of
Congratulations.
Boston. We take our rituals irreverently, unseriously, and we hold up the struggle against religious self-importance. Hubris is what it's known as, right? Anyway, welcome to Community Church of Boston. Die Gedanken sind frei, my thoughts freely flower. Die Gedanken sind frei, my thoughts give me power. No scholar can map them, no hunter can trap them, no one can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei, I think as I please, and this gives me pleasure. My conscience decrees. These thoughts I must treasure. My thoughts will not cater to duke or dictator. No one can deny. Die Gedanken sind frei. And if tyrants take me and throw me in prison, my thoughts will break free like blossoms in season. Foundations will tumble, the structures will crumble, and freedom will cry. Die Gedanken sind frei, and freedom will cry. Die Gedanken sind frei. And that's why we light this candle. For our thoughts and our beliefs that are free, that are not dictated by anybody. Welcome to Community Church of Boston. We have amazing guests this morning, both online, but they look so good and they sound so good and their thoughts are so good and free. Will you welcome for our opening song, our music for today is Magpie, also known as Terry Artzner and Terry and Greg Leonino. I switched around their last names, which is wonderful. I have a friend who wrote a song that was called My Uncle Nancy and My Aunt John.
Perfect.
About her uncle and aunt who were so intertwined together. I just love these folks, and I'm glad that they're with us again at Community Church. Terry and Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
I love that song. We should sing it all the time.
That is a great song. We always sing Gedanken sind frei. Yes.
This is
nice to sing it a cappella, no accompaniment,
gorgeous.
and then you can raise it up every verse like that. That's really nice.
Beautiful.
Very powerful. Thank you, Dean. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
All right, so we're going to start off with a song from Phil Oakes.
Show me a prison. Show me a jail. Show me a prisoner whose face is growing pale. And I'll show you a young man with many reasons why there but for fortune may go alley. Show me a train. Show me a hobo who sleeps out in the rain. And I'll show you a young man with many reasons why there but for fortune may go you or man, with many reasons why. There but for fortune may go you or I. Show me a country where the bombs had to fall. Show me the ruins of the buildings once so tall. I'll show you a young land with so many reasons why. There but for fortune may go you or I, or I.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Terry and Greg. Remembrances of the great Phil Oakes. I want to show you something that I found hidden behind another picture, which is Community Church's called Statement of Purpose. I just want to read it. We used to read it every Sunday. We fell out of that practice, but it says, Community Church of Boston, unleashing the human spirit for justice and peace. And here's the statement. The Community Church of Boston is a free community of women and men united for the study and practice of universal religion, seeking to apply ethical ideals to individual life and the democratic and cooperative principle to all forms of social and economic life. That's our statement of purpose that we've had over the years. I've found, searching in the archives, that it's changed over the years. We also found the original 1921 sort of founding document making us legal with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as a chapter whatever corporation or something. And it has the same thing, except it excludes universal religion, which is just an interesting thing to think about. Did they add this universal religion maybe for tax purposes? I just don't know. But I mean, we do believe in universal religion and all of its beauty and its strength in helping guide us. And we also denounce the stupidity of it all. I got to stop pontificating and philosophizing because we have an amazing program this morning, and we're just so glad that both Magpie and Professor Richard Wolff are with us. I want to tell you about last night. We had a beautiful dinner party and welcoming new members, and also a fundraiser for the church. I just want to reach out to and thank profusely Sandra Ruiz Harris, our president, who organized the whole thing, and we had quite a gathering of people here, and really amazing carnitas de mole and beautiful handmade tortillas straight from Chelsea, and wonderful rice like you wouldn't believe. We have some of it left over for this morning for all you were here to sample. But it was a beautiful dinner party last night. Our annual, maybe become an annual, 105 years of inspiration and social change, Community Church of Boston. Thank you, Sandra, and all the others who volunteered to help us put together. She even had a list of the menu on the back. I won't tell you about the menu. It was you'll be amazed. Next week, November 23rd. Actually, let me back up and start with November 21st. We have a showing of a film. First film endeavor by Sabrina Salvati, also known online as Sabby Sabs. She's a very popular podcaster and a treasure from our local area here. Sabby Sabs has a film that she just did that is called, let me see if I can find it. It's called Removed: Black Erasure in Boston. And it's specifically about the white stadium in Franklin Park that has been suddenly invested hundreds of millions to be able to put big sports teams in there. And the local Roxbury and Dorchester community, many are very incensed by this development. Removed: Black Erasure in Boston. That's on Friday, November 21st, this Friday. November 22nd, this is a new addition that came up. His name is Thomas Suarez, and he's from England, and he's a very noted author and speaker on Palestine. This is a program brought to you by the Galta Foundation, a local foundation working on Palestine-Israel issues, and it sends delegations to work on things like the olive harvest. Also brought to you by Mass Peace Action and UUs for Justice in the Middle East, and New England, NEJMA, New England, something on Palestine, New England. So that should be really interesting. Saturday evening, Thomas Suarez. And then Sunday, old friend of ours named Charles Coe. He's a poet and an author, and he's a lovely man. We've had him a number of times. He reads and he inspires. Charles Coe next Sunday. Sunday after that, Divine Intervention, the secret, hilarious, and tragic history of Boston's Catholic anti-war movement. Brendan Hughes put together a many chapter podcast that tells the story of what happened at the Paulus Center, a Catholic church just about 4 blocks away from here, in the late 60s, when these young radical priests organized against the Vietnam War and held in sanctuary some draft resistors and AWOL young men, and schemed on things like breaking into draft board offices and destroying draft information, and breaking into Media Pennsylvania FBI headquarters. It's a really fabulous podcast, and this is going to be like a homecoming of a bunch of people now in their 80s who were involved in that struggle, including Brendan's mother, who's named Marianne Hughes, and her father. His father passed away. He was one of the priests, Father Patrick Hughes, at the Paulus Center. So that should be just a phenomenal program. Music that day by my favorite singer and song stylist and vocalist and choral director. Her name is Maura Smiley, and she's coming down from Vermont for that event. So we have a full plate for the rest of the month of November and beyond. So join us. And just remind you about some really active standouts that are happening here in the city of Boston. On Tuesdays at 11 a.m., there's a standout at the new Israeli embassy. I don't even know where it is. I haven't been to this standout, but we encourage you to be out in the streets. John, will you tell us where that is? 1 Washington Place is the address. Okay.
Going toward Government Center, but when there's a staple
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, all right. So it's right in, okay. So here's the correction. It's right in Government Center, 1 Washington Place. It's right next to the Staples. It's at Congress Street, I think. It goes down deep into the, 1 Washington Place, and it starts at noon every Tuesday. Wednesdays is an expanding standout at the ICE headquarters in Burlington, which is north of here. And I've been there just about every Wednesday, and it's a really inspiring mess of people. Like there's been as many as 800 people there on a Wednesday, and it keeps happening. And that has turned into a Thursday standout at the same place, 11 a.m., and that has turned into a Saturday standout at ICE headquarters. And I just want to ask you to keep me in your thoughts as I, on that same Friday 21st, the Sabrina Salvati Day, accompany somebody that you all know very well to an ICE interview. The lawyers have told me that it's no problem. It's just something called a biometric appointment, and that I'm not to worry. But knowing what has happened to that horrible institution that's turned into an American fascist secret police, I am not sleeping very well. But so that happens Friday, and we'll tell you the results on the other side of it. And so that's what I want to end these announcements with, and bring back Terry and Greg Magpie for a couple of songs. It's always such an inspiration to have the two of you with us.
Thank you so much, Dean. And where's our little picture there? Where you are?
I don't know.
There we are.
Whoa, now what happened?
Do it again. Oh, we love technology.
Oh, okay.
We have a song from a guy named Dave Gordon, who wrote some incredible songs. And this is one that we really like. It's called Slip of the Hand. And being from Ohio, we really, both of us were born in Ohio, so we kind of really identified with this song when we first heard it, didn't we? In our own way.
Yeah. Dave was from Ohio. He passed away quite a few years ago, but he was from the Springfield, Dayton area, southwestern Ohio. An old friend, actually, Dean. I think we met at the same PMN weekend that we met you, probably at the one in Philadelphia back in '84. Anyway, we've just always loved this song, and boy, it's just as relevant as ever. There's a little short refrain, which is slip of the hand, only a slip of the hand.
Feel free to sing along, add your harmony.
Any other words that you happen to know?
And it's called Slip of the Hand.
Police were my buddies. Each Saturday evening we'd meet. While I was neglecting my studies, they'd chase me down Sycamore Street.
It was kind of like going out dancing
with the whistles and lights flashing red. They must have thought I was Charles Manson, and the sirens was music instead. 'Cause they beat the time on my head, and I had it all to do over again. I'd shout it from each witness stand, that the difference between the dirty and clean is only a slip of the hand. Slip of the hand, slip of the hand. guess I was seeing my share of the laws being broken and bent. But the next thing that I was aware of, Ohio was paying my rent. We held up a 7-Eleven, the son of a banker and me. Now I'm number 12607, and he's member FDIC. Oh, Mr. Rose, can you see? It's the end of your future, the end of your youth, the end of whatever you planned. From reaching for stars to a life behind bars is only a slip of the hand. Slip of the hand, slip of the hand, only a slip of the hand. Now outside these walls are the faces of people whose freedom was bought, of people with friends in high places, and others who never got caught. And they tell us the prices have risen. Most of us think that's a crime, but here in the Lucasville prison, we're having a hell of a time. And they tell you gotta be strong, son. Don't steal, don't gamble or fight. There's too many strong to do nothing that's wrong, and not enough strong to do right. Sweet Jesus, I'm lonesome tonight. And how can I shut up, and how can I sleep, knowing some of you don't understand? Any fool kid could have done what I did, only a slip of the hand. Slip of the hand, slip of the hand, only a slip of the hand. So you High Point police in your cruisers, and all of you cops on the beat, go line up a few local losers and chase them down Sycamore Street.
Thank you, folks. Well, are we gonna do another song?
I hope so.
All right.
Right.
Well, here's one we wrote this year, and
Buffoon's a billionaire?
yeah,
What key?
and I think this is in the key of E flat,
Oh, that's right.
and
We call it Buffoons and Billionaires.
yeah, we were considering. Well, of course, every day is a new avalanche of stories of corruption and malfeasance, and that's for sure. Every
not to
time you
mention
turn
of
around,
trying to hurt people and
yeah,
human rights
cruelty,
issues.
just
Cruelty,
absolute,
plain
yeah.
cruelty.
I mean, for us talking about all of these things, one of the things that came up was this sense of tremendous betrayal, and look, I'm a peace guy. I was a conscientious objector during the Vietnam War, and I remain a conscientious objector and pretty staunchly anti-militarist. And yet, I feel that one of the greatest betrayals that has taken place in just the last year is that a betrayal of the sacrifice that was made by our parents' generation in the 1940s, fighting fascism in the world. And so we sort of took that sense, I guess, and put it into a conversation between, well, say, our children and our parents, their grandparents, their uncles, whomever. Anyway, this is the conversation, sort of in the voice of the veteran, I guess, the voice of the original Antifa, the original anti-fascist.
My grandpa fought the fascist back in World War II. The hate, the mass insanity of Hitler and his crew. He was proud to wear the uniform and do the best he could, but he never agreed when they decreed that war was good. Yes, it's good we stopped them in their march of tyranny. They never should have had that power. It's only now we see. And now buffoons and billionaires have stolen the people's power. We stand on a precipice in this urgent hour. What will your answer be when your grandchildren say, what did you do to stop them back in your day? What is good about a war? That is what he said. Who wins? Even the victorious must bury their dead. Why not stop the tyrant long before that's what he becomes? Long before we go to war with bombs and guns. If you don't think we're heading down that path again, just look at how they're playing us, friend against friend. And now buffoons and billionaires have stolen the people's power, and we stand on a precipice in this urgent hour. What will your answer be when your grandchildren say, what did you do to stop them back in your day? So you break it down to chaos and you're telling who to blame, saying they're the ones to fix it in their rapacious game. And once they've seized authority, confiscated wealth and power, with fear their goal, they'll take control until the masses cower. But if there is a lesson to be learned from history, it's that we must not obey the rule of tyranny. And now buffoons and billionaires have stolen the people's power. We stand on a precipice in this urgent hour. What will your answer be when your grandchildren say, what did you do to stop them back in your day? What did you do to stop them back in your day?
Thank you, Terry and Greg, also known as Magpie. Reminded me of the best sign at last week's standout at Burlington, and you've seen this sentiment before. My father fought against fascism, now it's my turn. So that's a lesson to take to heart. A quick reading from Eduardo Galeano, Children of the Days. There's an entry for every day of the year, and this one is called An Examiner of Life. Being so nearsighted, he had no choice but to invent lenses that laid the foundations of modern optical science, as well as a telescope that discovered a new star. And being a real gawker, he stared at a snowflake in the palm of his hand. He saw that its frozen soul was a six-pointed star. 6, like the sides of the little cells in beehives. In his mind's eye, he saw that the hexagonal form is the best use of space. From the balcony of his house, he discerned that the voyage of his plants in search of light was not circular, and he deduced that perhaps the voyage of the planets around the sun was not circular either. His telescope went on to measure the ellipses they describe on the sky. He lived his life looking. When he stopped seeing, he died on this day in 1630. The gravestone of Johannes Kepler says, quote, "I measured the heavens, now the shadows I measure." Johannes Kepler. Eduardo Galeano. Professor Richard Wolff, it's so great to have you back. And we've had you with us 2 or 3 times now, and it's always an inspiration. And offline, from when we don't have you on our own screen hosting you, you're one of my very favorites to receive new wisdom about our country and about our economy and about our state of the situation right now, and your predictions about what's going to happen sooner or later, hopefully sooner than later, so that the next thing can come, which has to be better than what's going on now. I don't need to read your Professor Emeritus of Economics. Yes, I will. University of Massachusetts Amherst, currently a visiting professor at the New School University in New York, co-founder of Democracy at Work and its weekly radio and TV show Economic Update. See democracyatwork.info and rdwolff.com. Check him out online. It's really worth spending a lot of time. Thank you, Richard Wolff, for being with us.
Well, let me thank you to start for this kind invitation. I've done it now a few times, as you say, and I look forward to it during the year as a part of the Thanksgiving, Christmas holiday season, at least for me and my family. I am speaking to you from Manhattan, New York City, and I want to begin by saying that the point and purpose of what I have to say to you today is hopefully going to give you a framework, a context for many things that you have thought, things you have felt, that maybe worried you that you were overreacting, or maybe it was just you. And I'm here to tell you that we as a nation are going through one of the great historical changes of the history of this country, and quite possibly of the whole world. You know, change is always happening, but sometimes it happens in a highly condensed, very fast way. Oftentimes, people who complain that everything is changing but so slowly, only to discover someone who points out, yeah, but remember this period when it changed real fast, and before you know it, it changes again quickly. It is changing now quickly. And that's because a lot of problems kicked down the road are not kickable anymore. A lot of changes that built slowly are now in a kind of crescendo. And because a lot of this change is frightening to a lot of people, one of the most remarkable things about it is the enormous amount of denial that is going on that these changes are happening. So bear with me as I go through telling you what I think the big changes are, and why I think we are in the midst of them. Okay, let's begin. I'm going to divide the evidence of big changes into two parts. The first part will be international, and the second part will be national, what's going on here in the United States. The international, well, in a way, that's easy, if a little scary. For most of the last 75 years, which means pretty much the lifetime of you and me, the United States in the larger world has been an enormously powerful country. For many of those years, clearly the most powerful economically, politically, militarily, ideologically. And that was for no surprised reason. It had to do with World War II. In World War II, not only was fascism defeated, but every country that might have been a competitor for the United States' position as top dog was busy destroying every other one. So when the war was over in 1945, Britain, France, Germany, Italy destroyed, Japan destroyed, China and Russia likewise. The United States emerged unscathed. In fact, the war had put Americans back to work after the 1930s Great Depression had made so many millions of our fellow citizens unemployed and poor. In the war, I like to teach my students, we took half of the millions unemployed and put them in a uniform, and we took the other half of the unemployed and gave them jobs making the uniforms. Anyone with half a brain and a little knowledge of history would have known that the situation of the United States at the end of World War II was an anomaly, couldn't possibly last, could never be the dominant country. Why? Because no other country in the history of the human race that ever occupied a dominant position kept it. Every empire that was born, evolved, and died, and there was no reason ever to imagine the United States would not follow the same pattern. But 1945, when it came, the end of the war, put the United States in this incredible position. Here we were, a country with less than 5% of the world's people, yet we produced half of the world's output, accounted for half of the world's trade. The US dollar became a global currency beyond even what the British pound sterling had been. Roosevelt died, and the American century, as optimists called it, was underway. And Americans did what others have done. They believed it wasn't temporary, that it was perfect, that it was, if you were religious, God's preference for America, the exceptionalism of America, and on and on and on. Very popular themes in the 1940s and 50s and 60s. And if you follow our news today, you'll know it's alive and well in many parts of the United States to this day. But that is not accurate. In recent years, the last 2 or 3 decades, the United States international position has started to quickly revert to what it was long before World War II. I don't have much time, so I'm going to give you only some of the milestones. The last 4 wars that the United States has engaged in, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, and now Ukraine, we have lost each and every one of those wars. The enemy in Vietnam was the Communist Party of North Vietnam. What rules in Vietnam today is the Communist Party of North Vietnam. They won, we lost. In Afghanistan, the enemy was the Taliban. Who rules Afghanistan today? The Taliban. They won, we lost. I could go on, but you get the picture. And if you were not bamboozled by American mass media, you would know what everyone else in the world knows, which is that the war in Ukraine is over, the Russians won, and Ukraine and the West was defeated. That's not the sign of a hegemonic empire in control. That's a sign that the empire is over and it's not coming back. Along the way, the United States went from the dominant economic power, which gathered around it allies. They're called the G7, the group of seven. And just so we're all clear, they include Canada, Japan, Britain, France, Germany, and Italy, the United States and its allies. Arguably the center of the world economy for much of the last 75 years, but no longer. In the year 2020, another economic powerhouse caught up. That powerhouse is called the People's Republic of China and its allies, who are called the BRICS, BRICS, named after the 5 countries that started that alliance. Much bigger than 5 now, but those 5, their acronym: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. In the year 2020, if you add up the GDP, that's a number we use in economics. It's a simple number, rough idea. It's the total output in 1 year of goods and services in a country. If you add in 2020 the GDP of the United States and our G7 allies, it was roughly equal to the GDP of the People's Republic of China and its BRICS allies. Since 2020, the growth of China and its allies has meant that the gap between China and its allies economically, total output of goods and services, has grown larger each year, as it is growing larger this year, and as it will grow larger again next year and into the foreseeable future. China and its allies have been growing faster than the United States every year for the last 25, and they have now caught up and gone further. If you add up the GDP of the United States and our allies, it's about 28% of world output. If you do the same for China and the BRICS allies, it's 35% of the world's output. We are not the economic powerhouse of the world. We are not the richest country. We're not any of those things that our leaders keep saying in a kind of mantra that should remind you of people who cope with a changed reality by telling themselves it never changed. The change is there, whether you need to deny it or not. Every country in the world right now, every company engaged in world trade right now is rethinking its strategy to take account of where the wealth now is. It's in China and the BRICS, growing faster than it is in the quote unquote mature economies of the United States and the West. If I had time, I would dwell on this because the implications touch you in every part of your life. But I don't. So I'm going to kind of go fast forward and talk about the national symptoms of all of this change that's building to a crescendo. First, we have a level of division in our society that you all notice when you pick up the newspaper any day. What is that about? That's partly a reaction. We're not the king of the hill anymore. And what has happened is that various parts of our country are busy blaming other parts because they can't face what is actually going on here. Southerners blame the North. We see a recurrence of divisions we thought we had put behind us. White supremacy, ethnic hatred, extraordinary what we are watching. And what frightens us, the return of a kind of Christian fundamentalism that wants to exclude everybody who isn't a white or a Christian. Hostility between our Republican and Democratic political parties, mass alienation of the people from those parties, because glimmering in the background is an awareness that these parties are part of what is in the past that is no longer with us. It's the way we feel our way towards a recognition of what we're busy denying. I'm talking to you from New York City. I'm going to give you one symptom. Less than 2 weeks ago, the people of New York elected and voted for a mayor. We do that all the time, every 4 years. Who is the mayor? Zoran Mamdani, a young Muslim socialist who doesn't run away from those labels, ran on them, appealed to the city of New York. A man who, when asked what he would do as mayor if Benjamin Netanyahu visited New York, answered, "I will arrest him." New York has the largest Jewish community, I believe, outside of Israel. Mr. Mamdani didn't just win the election. He got over 50% of the vote. He defeated all of the other candidates combined with his vote, including Mr. Cuomo, who's part of the Clinton-Obama Democratic hierarchy, defeating the Republicans. Mr. Trump endorsed Mr. Cuomo, made no difference, may have even hurt him. That's not a vote for socialism on the part of many people who are just beginning to learn again about what socialism is. This was a vote against the status quo, against the history of Republicans and Democratic people running New York City for the same core of wealthy people that have run that city for the last 2 centuries. New York is the home to more billionaires than any other city in the United States. And they gave an enormous amount of money against Mr. Mamdani, and that didn't help them either. That's a sign of big change. And a word about the socialism part. We are witnessing, and this is another sign of change, the return of socialism. I'm very determined to make sure you understand my choice of the word return. Because before World War II, if you know your American history, socialism was everywhere. New York newspapers embarrassed themselves when they wondered out loud what in the world a socialist mayor would mean, as if it were a new event. Hundreds of American cities have had socialist mayors. That's not a new phenomena at all. When were they? Before World War II. You see, after World War II, we had the Cold War, and we worked as a nation to erase, to expunge, to repress everything having to do with socialism or communism or Marxism or anarchism or any of that. And if you haven't lived long enough or you didn't learn your history, you might have imagined it was always that way. It wasn't. Mr. Mamdani has hundreds of forerunners who were mayors of American cities. Bridgeport, Connecticut, nearby, not up, an hour up the road, long time, socialist mayor. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I could go on. And if you want other examples, go to Europe where there are not 100, thousands of cities and towns run by socialists. And they haven't blown up, and they haven't disappeared, and they're not disasters or none of it. That's another sign. It's called in psychology the return of the repressed, which is not a name for a horror movie. It's a name for the historical change that is exploding all around us. And now I come to the second half of my talk, because another one of the signs of rapid change is the phenomena of Donald Trump. And I want to turn now to what it is he's doing that will demonstrate to you what's at stake in this period of intense change. Okay, I understand and I know, and you're quite right, that Mr. Trump appears to many of you as somebody who's scary or who's very changeable or who's a bit of a narcissist or whatever words you want to use. And all of that is correct, but I'm not dealing with that kind of question. I'm trying to understand what are the deeper impulses that shape him like they shape all the rest of us, even though they shape him in a unique way. Okay, let's begin. Mr. Trump's entire political career has nothing to do with the Republican and Democratic parties because he was a disinterested, unimportant figure in both of them. He gave money to both of them because money was the one thing he had that they were interested in. They were never interested in him. Neither of them ever chose him to be a candidate for anything, ever, anywhere. How did he then become the president, given what I've just told you and which I'm sure you knew? He figured a way out to take advantage, political advantage, of an awful lot of people in the United States who felt hurt and damaged and denied and ignored and excluded over the last 30 to 40 years. People who had been treated that way, who had appealed to either Republicans or Democrats to hear them, to do something for them, and were ignored. So I have to begin by telling you who these people are, telling you their story, because otherwise you will not understand Trump and all the ways that the Trump period is affecting you and Boston and the church and every other part of all of the lives we lead. The people who he appealed to, whose pain he figured out how to use are mostly white, Christian, male factory workers in the American South and lower Midwest and scattered around the country. For the last 30 or 40 years, their situation has been savaged. What do I mean? Two major phenomena, and I'll be brief because I don't have the time. Two major phenomena hurt them. One was the technological revolution here, computers, robots, and artificial intelligence, which took away their jobs. Number two was the movement of American industry out of the United States, and from where mostly? The South and the Midwest, and scattered elsewhere, which left the United States, above all for China, but secondarily India, Brazil, and so on. That meant their jobs disappeared. And whose jobs were they? The best paid workers in America, the unionized, male, white factory workers, whose struggles against capitalists had got them some of the highest wages in the world. The foundation of the so-called middle class that Americans like to believe they belong to. They had promised each other, men and women, the American dream. They can't afford it anymore. They had promised their children not only that dream, but that the children would live better than the parents. Can't deliver that, not anymore. So depressed are the children of these workers that they are among the hundreds of thousands who kill themselves with synthetic opioids every year. Where? In just those areas. They are full of rage. When you hear MAGA, think of that. Nobody helped them. Nobody spoke to them. Until a politician suddenly emerged for them and for us, who was able to demonstrate, I'm different from all of these Republicans and Democrats that you're used to. And how am I going to show it to you? I'm going to descend an escalator in New York City to open my campaign by giving a speech in which I say things like, Mexicans in our country are all rapists. He said such things. He became famous. And quickly, as fast as you can imagine, he was clearly identified as something new and different, because conventional politicians don't say things like that. And he said, I'm going to drive these immigrants out. They're the criminals in our country. They're taking your jobs. They're moving into your housing. They're assaulting your children. And all make believe. None of it didn't matter. It spoke to something. We're the excluded. And then he would go on and build it. You're excluded. You're ignored. You're hurt. And what is the country worrying about? Making it up to the women who have been discriminated against. Making it up to the black and brown people who have been. What about us? Was the white, Christian, urban, male factory workers' lament. Nobody dared say anything. Trump, all alone, said it himself. Now, Trump understood, he is a billionaire, he understood that both the Democratic and Republican parties depend on rich donors for their lives. So he knew that he would have to appeal to this angry, rageful, hurt population without attacking the donors. He had to get the donors to give him money because he didn't threaten them at all. He wasn't going to hurt them. He wasn't going to help those people who had been screwed by doing anything to the donor class. Don't worry, I'm one of you. I'll take care of you. No, he had to find scapegoats. He had to pander to the rage of the hurt by blaming it on everybody other than the donors. So he blamed it on immigrants. He blamed it on Muslims. He blamed it on the Chinese. He blamed it on foreigners. He blamed it on America being cheated around the world by all the people. Even our nice allies in Canada and Mexico are out to get us. Yeah, he speaks to people who felt that way. But remember always, he never could talk down the donors, which was not an easy task. Because if you ask the question, who makes the decision to install a new technology that deprives people of their jobs? You know what the answer is? The employer class. They're the ones who decide what to do with technology, how to install it, who to fire, when to fire. That's the employer class. And now here's a funny coincidence. If you ask yourself, who makes the decision to close the factory in Cincinnati and open it in Shanghai? It turns out it's the employer class. They make that decision. According to the US Census, employers are 3% of the American people. Oh my goodness. The same 3% did it with the technology and did it with relocating jobs abroad. It's obvious who the mass of angry white, Christian, unionized workers should be angry at. And Mr. Trump figured out if he could redirect their rage against Mexicans and foreigners and Chinese, he would be doing the donor class a fantastic service. And they loved him, and they still love him because that's what he did. He went even further. He said to the donor class, you give me the money so that I can sustain my demonization of the scapegoats to hold on to the MAGA population. I'll take care of you if you elect me. What was the first thing he did in his first term? It was the tax cut of December 2017. And what was the first thing he did this year when he took office for the second time? It was that thing you read about called the Big Beautiful Tax Bill. The first thing both times to take care of the most important part of this story. Only after he had given them a tax cut did he give them other things they want. Because they want, the donor class, they want really two things. Don't tax us. Give the minimum to the mass of people you have to. And if you have to spend more than you raise in taxes, because you're afraid if you tax the average people, they'll vote you out. If you tax the donors, they won't give you money. So you're trapped. And the politicians of this country have found over the last 30 years the solution to that dilemma. You don't tax. and you don't stop spending. And you handle that by borrowing. You borrow the difference between what you tax and what you spend. That otherwise you couldn't spend it. You have to get it somewhere. So you borrow it. But here comes the joke. And if you've never got this joke before, remember it. It'll help you understand what's going on. Here's the joke. Where do you think the government goes to borrow the money? And the answer is mostly to corporations and the rich. And you know why they have the money to lend to the government? Because they don't pay taxes. That's the joke. Only the joke is on you. Because eventually, if you keep borrowing, and in case you don't know it, we have been borrowing like nobody. The United States, the biggest debtor nation in the world. We have no competition there at all. We're drowning in debt. Our debt is so bad that the three companies in the world that assess the credit worthiness of all corporations and all countries, though three American firms, one is called Standard and Poor, one is called Moody's, you may have heard of them, and the third is called Fitch. All are American companies, and all of them over the last couple of years have reduced the credit worthiness of the United States government from AAA, the best you can have, which we used to have, to AA. All three of them. Are there other countries that still have AAA? Yup. It's too dangerous to lend to the United States. Why? And this is a very important point, folks. There's a long history of countries that borrow and keep borrowing because they can't or won't tax their own people or their own businesses. Eventually, they borrow so much that their creditors say, no more. And why do the creditors say that? They say it because they can see what's coming. A moment when the people of a country are told by their government, we can't provide you with food, clothing, and shelter because we need the money to repay our creditors the interest and the principal we owe them. At which point the people rise up and say, you're not going to starve my children to take care of the rich creditors. No, 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 no. At which point the politicians lose their job and are lucky if they don't lose their head. And the creditors get told, you wait. Wow. You know what the creditors of the United States are worried about? That. And if you think that's far away, stop. Mr. Trump is trying to not pay out the money owed to the people on the SNAP program in this country as I speak to you. The poorest of the poor who rely on food stamps. Why? Because our debt is so big, it's costing us now roughly as much as our entire defense budget. Oh my God, what's going to happen? If you really don't feed those people, if you really cut back, and notice Mr. Trump has been trying to show the creditors that he's trying to do something. The first 4 months of his regime, he treated us to a piece of political theater called the Department of Governmental Efficiency. I'm an economist. I've worked on efficiency studies all my life. They're complicated, they take a long time, and they require careful examination. What Elon Musk did was fire large numbers of people and call that efficiency and nothing to do with efficiency. But it does solve something. It saves the government money. So we don't have a Department of Education. and we're not giving foreign aid. And our airplanes are all crazy because we don't have air traffic control, but we're paying interest to the creditors. When the theater of efficiency was over, he gave us another theater called the governmental shutdown. What was that about? Stop spending money. Shutting down had the same function as efficiency. Don't be fooled. Easy for me to say, Mr. Trump works overtime with a very big staff to fool us, but we don't need to be fooled. What's the sum total of what I'm telling you? Mr. Trump should be understood in this context. He is desperate. And I won't even get to the Epstein files, which is the least of his worries, even though it may take the job from him. And why is this happening? Because we're in a period of catastrophic change. For the first time in your lifetime, every one of you that's watching or listening, for the first time in your lifetime, the United States has a powerful, successful competitor. We haven't had that before. They were all laid prostrate by the Second World War, as I mentioned before. But now we have an enormously successful, rapidly growing powerhouse, China. That changes everything. And they're gaining and they're growing. This year, the United States will grow its GDP maybe 2%, 2 point something percent. China's growth this year, 5%. Do you understand? It's relentless. Russia didn't win the war in Ukraine all by itself. It won it because right behind it is China. When the United States and the Europeans thought they could cripple Russia by not buying the oil and gas whose exports Russia depends on, Russia smiled and turned to India and China and said, would you mind buying our oil and gas for a while we take care of this war? No problem. Mr. Modi and Mr. Xi Jinping made that decision, as everyone should have understood they would. The United States said, we will sanction you. They laugh. Only Americans take these threats seriously because they don't want to face what it is I'm trying to get across here. We are in a new world, and denial is not an adequate response. We are headed on a collision course. Mr. Trump, who ran, and I have no reason to doubt his sincerity on this point, who ran his campaign saying, among other things, I want to end these endless wars. You remember? He was going to end Ukraine in a day or two, and he was going to fix everything in Gaza, and he was going to this, that, and the other thing. He hasn't, none of it. Ukraine war has proceeded. He didn't solve it in a week, and he didn't solve it with a phone call. He just didn't solve it. And about endless wars, he attacked Iran. That's not ending a war. That's provoking one. He has threatened the president of Mexico to invade that country, ostensibly to deal with drugs. He has threatened Canada to make it a 51st state. He has threatened Denmark to take Greenland away from it. He recently threatened Nigeria because he doesn't like the way Muslims and attack Christian churches. And as you know, he has moved huge amounts of our military right off the coast of Venezuela and threatens to attack that. This is militarism gone nuts, and it's very hard not to see this which you can be sure is how the Russians and the Chinese and the rest of the world see this, as the desperate effort of someone caught in a very difficult situation to find some place where he can recoup his identity as the savior, the one who's going to fix it for those angry people, his MAGA supporters, and for a skeptical American public. A nice new war, at least for a while, might do that. Now, the last step, and then I'll stop. Where do the tariffs fit in? Well, here you got to admire it because it's a little complicated, but I think I can simplify it for you. Excuse me. Tariff is a tax. You should all be aware it's just the name of a tax of a particular kind. It's a tax levied on anything produced outside the United States that's brought into the United States to be sold and consumed here. The tariff affects only that. So, for example, wine produced in Napa Valley and sold all over the United States doesn't have a tariff. Wine produced in France or Italy or Australia that comes to the United States, it does pay the tariff because it's an imported item. And the ostensible purpose of all of this was two things. One, he was going to make businesses come to the United States because they would want to produce it here, no tariff, rather than wherever they were, tariff. They'd escape the tariff. You know, if you don't want to go on the turnpike and pay the fee, you can go the side roads and you can get there without paying the fee. It's a very simple idea. So he said, I'm going to bring jobs back to America. And the number two function of tariffs, being a tax, was to help the government be less needy of borrowing because it would get a new revenue source. You might even say, wow, since the people who pay tariffs are import businesses in America, it's a tax on business. And you heard me say a few minutes ago, can't tax the donor class, can't tax the businesses. But remember, the tariff only hits the importing business, number one. And number two, he gave them a huge tax cut before he imposed the tariff. So they come out pretty good. And what the people who get a tariff do, of course, is to raise the price, which is why our inflation continues. The importing company raises the price to the retailer so they don't get hurt by that tariff, they pass it on. And Mr. Trump's advisors should have known this because tariffs are hundreds of years old. I teach courses in international trade, and a section of the course is the tariff. And we teach the students, based on the experience of many countries over many years, when do tariffs work? When do they fail? Mr. Trump presented the tariff as though it were an unquestionable good thing. It isn't, it wasn't, and he counted on the American media not to teach you what they could have and what they should have. Happens a lot, folks. What did the tariff do? And this is another part of what our dilemma is. The tariff was a declaration by the United States of economic war against every other country in the world. This is an astounding thing to do. If you haven't understood that, you've not been paying attention. It says to the world, you want to do business in the United States, you got to pay a tax to get us. It's not the behavior of an empire that we once were, that said we believe in free trade and we're going to make the world a place where anyone with a good idea can start a business and prosper. No, 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 no. All of that's gone. You want to do business in the United States, you pay a tax. Let me give you an example that affects your life, although in a way you may not have known about. About 15 years ago, a competition began around the world. It was a competition who could produce the best, cheapest electric vehicle, a car or a truck that does not run on gasoline, but runs instead on electricity. You all know Elon Musk is the richest man in the world because he did it first. But he didn't win the competition. That's why the Tesla Motor Company is in the trouble it's in now. The competition was won by Chinese company. In case you never heard of it, it's called the BYD, three initials that, by the way, stand for English words. Build your dream. That's what it stands for. The BYD Corporation in China produces by far the best quality, cheapest electric cars and trucks. Are they for sale around the world? Yes. Have they been for sale around the world for some years now? Yes. In Paris, they are part of the taxi fleet. Why have you not seen them? Because in his first term, Mr. Trump hit them with a 25% tariff. Mr. Biden, not to be outdone, raised it to 100%, which is what it is now. So the car cost $30,000. You could get the best electric car for about $30,000. But that's what the money would have to go to China to pay for the car. To pick it up at the dealer here, you'd have to pay the 100% tax, the tariff on that, to Uncle Sam. So you would have to pay $60,000, 30 for the car, 30 for the tariff on the car. You're not going to do that. You're going to settle for a less good car, and you only have to pay maybe 40 or 50 grand to Ford or GM or Tesla or any of the others. But that's very bad for the United States. You know why? Because everywhere else in the world, every competitor of the United States outside this country can buy the best quality truck at the lowest price, 30 grand. Only the American has to pay much more. You know what that means? We're done. The competition is over. We can't. The very steps we take to protect us hurt us. There's been no rush of companies here. They know that Mr. Trump takes the tariff away within weeks after he puts it, or he raises it, or he lowers it. The whole world is laughing this week because Switzerland achieved the reduction of its tariff from 39% to 15%. And you know how they did it? They gave Mr. Trump a gold bar engraved with the numbers of his presidency, worth $130,000. They came here, they gave him the gifts, he dropped it. The whole world laughs because in the rest of the world, this behavior has a name. It's called bribery. But our media will make it a remark here or there, sure. But it's part of the denial. We're at that level that a foreign government can spend what is nothing for it and achieve. We're for sale, folks. This is everything I've told you. is not unusual for a declining empire. In the end, and this is my final point, a declining empire usually flames out by going to war to try to recoup in war what is beyond being recouped. And so the war usually goes badly. Toward the end of the Roman Empire, they referred to all the people crowding in and taking over pieces of as savages, as wild tribes. They were none of those things. It's just that they were winning, and Rome could not understand, having been a dominant empire for some centuries, that it was over. We are now a nation that has designated China to be our great adversary, that cannot end the war in Ukraine, even though it knows it's lost, costing still more money, costing still more lives, reducing that poor country to a horrible condition. So the fact is, we face the following. Either we continue the way we've been going, which will end in a war with China and the BRICS. And there is no way for the United States to win such a war. They have nuclear weapons, probably more than we do. China and the BRICS together are over half the population of this planet. The United States is 4.5% of the people on this planet. The United States in G7 is under 20% of the population of this planet. It's over. The next after our decline will either be a Chinese empire, or maybe, if we're lucky, the effort we call the League of Nations after World War I, or the United Nations after World War II, will be the model, a genuine multinational agreement among the people of the world, so they don't replicate the history I have just tried to summarize. Those are our real choices. But I'm not pessimistic. I'm actually optimistic. I think slowly, painfully, and hesitatingly, we are building in this country to our new political initiative that will go to the people, tell the story we have to say, which I've tried to summarize with and for you this morning, and say we need a new political direction, new political leaders who will sit down with our Chinese counterparts, because they, like we, need to avoid the clash from which there is no recovery, nuclear war. And maybe, if we take the initiative here, we'll find kindred souls over there who will meet us halfway. And the best argument for that strategy is that it's better than any alternative. Thank you for your attention.
Richard Wolff, thank you for being with us this morning. And I want to tell you that in the back of the auditorium is a basket, and it is a receptacle for your generous donation to help us make this happen. On our website, there is also a credit card or PayPal option that you can use. Thank you for everybody who donated last night in our fundraiser, and we raised a significant amount. It's just great that we have such generous, wonderful people. And also, cooks who made a sumptuous, beautiful meal for us. Let's go to Magpie for the last song. Again, thank you, Terry and Greg, for joining us, and I will be in touch with you immediately about a physical concert here at the church.
Well, thank you, Dean, and thank you so much, Richard Wolff, for your insights and your amazing thoughts for us to contemplate and act on. Here's a little song that we have a couple new words for. It's called Follow the Money.
Follow the money. We wrote this song several years ago as a comment on there's an organization called Oil Change International, whose mission statement is to break the corrupting grip of oil money on governments around the world, which sounded just too logical to us. So we made it the song, and then we've adapted it and changed it a few times over the years. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready, and thank you so much for having us.
Follow the money from the oil can, from Iraq, Nigeria, and Kazakhstan. Follow the money from the tanker boats to the halls of Congress where it buys the votes. Follow the money till it makes you sick and you slip and you slide on the thick oil slick. Follow the money, follow the money. Our addiction to oil is at the core, guzzling and guzzling more and more to keep on drilling to the ends of the earth. How many barrels is a human life worth? How long will it take for us to see somebody owns the powers that be? Follow the money, follow the money, follow the money from the oil can, from Iraq, Nigeria, and Kazakhstan. Follow the money from the tanker boats to the halls of Congress where it buys the votes. Follow the money till it makes you sick and you slip and you slide on a thick oil slick. Follow the money, follow the money. Which politicians stand to gain with big oil money in their campaign? We can see where their money is spent. Big tax cuts for the 1%. If you're wondering why they're flying high, they got the very best Congress oil money can buy. Follow the money, follow the money, follow the money from the oil can, from Iraq, Nigeria, and Kazakhstan. Follow the money from the tanker boats to the halls of Congress where it buys the votes. Follow the money from where it's spent right to the office of the president. Follow the money, follow the money. Standing on the rubble is a golden tower. Between the rich and the regime is the grifter's fascist scheme. From the broken and the torn, their ill-gotten wealth is born. Follow the money, follow the money. We know that there is a better way when the people of the world gonna have our say. It's time for all nations to rearrange. It's time for a global oil change. To save this planet, it's not too late. It's time for separation of oil and state. Follow the money, follow the money. Yeah, follow the money from the oil can, from Iraq, Nigeria, to Kazakhstan. Follow the money from the tanker boats to the halls of Congress where it buys the votes. Follow the money till it makes you sick, slip, and slide on a thick oil slick. Follow the money, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Look at all those applauses coming up through the screen. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Magpie. That was a perfect song. And just so glad that I was able to match you with Richard Wolff here. A quick rundown. December and January, we have a new newsletter coming out soon. Let me just tell you a few names to know about. Dr. Manisha Gelman, Emerson College history professor, will be speaking about a certain world's coolest dictator named Nayib Bukele of El Salvador, the country I know well, and you know more about as time passes. January 4th, Israeli historian, political scientist Ilan Pappé. Can hardly wait to hear from Ilan on our platform. January 11th, author, poet, and Yoruba philosopher, and also longtime member of Community Church Yemi, Prince Ogunyemi. January 18th, MLK weekend, retired Berkeley professor and powerful gospel singer and educator and songwriter Lawrence Watson, 118. Finally, Reggie Gibson, Massachusetts Poet Laureate, will be here on January 25. One more I will mention, Sunday, March 1st, a certain Dr. Harriet Fraud, who just so happens to be Richard's spouse. And we're really looking forward to welcoming Harriet to our humble stage as well. So let's jump right into a Q&A. Let's just... Well, let me brag about our lunch, which is I'm sorry we won't have a Q&A, but we can have a conversation without Dr. Wolff. Would there be anybody who would like to just say hello and make a brief comment? Okay, let's start right here with John Robinson.
Even though he's not here by the AI, I'm by the internet, I should say. I want to thank Professor Wolff. I always get a lot out of it. My question would have been to Professor Wolff, and so now I'm putting it to the audience. I recently heard on an interview that the real unemployment rate in the United States is 25%. So I wanted to ask Professor Wolff, is the real unemployment rate, not the government statistics, but the real unemployment rate, is it 25%? I recently heard this. Thank you.
Do you call these rhetorical questions? Questions without an answer? There must be an answer that we can look up somewhere. How about somebody online? Anybody who would like to say hello and make a comment and just tell us who you are and where you're calling in from? Is there someone, Amar? Everybody put their hands down on... Barbara. Hello, Barbara.
Hi.
How are you?
I love coming here on Sunday from Ithaca, New York. And you always have a wonderful program. And I have to say, Richard Wolff is my favorite economist. I will put in a plug for myself. I am looking for work. I put it in the chat in advocacy, organizing, research, editing, and/or coordinating. If anyone has any suggestions, I would appreciate it. And thank you so much. I look forward to all the programs you have coming up in the next less than 6 months. Thank you so much again for doing a Zoom.
Well, thank you, Barbara. I want to...
And a plug for Magpie as well.
I want to put something out there, which is eventually a link to a song that's by Roy Zimmerman, and it's called Socialist. And it starts, I don't know the song, but it starts, ever drive on a road or a highway? You're a socialist. Did you go to public school? You're a socialist. Ever go into a public library? you're a socialist. Did the fire department ever come to your house to put out a fire or to attend to a sick person? You're a socialist. That's the gist of the song, and the question becomes how to do socialism without the greed of capitalism. And I say that because I love a farmer's market. I've sold coffee from El Salvador at a farmer's market for about 15 years, and I don't make money on it, but we get free coffee for the church and for our household, and it's I don't care that it doesn't make money because the shipping is expensive and because the price of coffee is high and because the most recent, there's a Trump tariff that cost me about $970 for a shipment of about 1.5 tons of coffee. But about farmers markets, there are all these little canopies, They're mostly selling vegetables. They're also like an incubator for capitalism. It's somebody who has an idea for a product, and they're putting it out there, and they're trying to improve the packaging and improve the product and make it a better recipe for jelly or for this sauce or for whatever. And the question is that a model for socialism or communism whose supposed end goal is kind of the people's ownership of the means of production? I don't know. That's what I wanted to ask Dr. Wolff about. And I know that he's mentioned in the past worker-owned companies, and that's something that we're interested in. And people have asked for more programming about worker-owned companies and maybe have people from some real successful ones that happen here in Massachusetts to come and talk to us about that, and about that if it's a possible model for bigger things. I'm just blabbing off the top of my head. Let me take this to Lenny. And Lenny, thank you for coming all the way from Brunswick, Maine. Lenny, who is a longtime member of the church and who has been on our boards before, and he came down just for the big weekend of the gala dinner last night, and Richard Wolff this morning.
Thank you. My question to Professor Wolff would have been, you talked about Trump's strategy to appeal to the disenfranchised white and working class in this country. Did he come up with that himself, or are there people behind him that he basically running his programs? Because we don't hear very much in the mainstream media about who is actually making decisions about Trump.
Hello, Pilar.
Thank you for the Community Churros Boston. Great panel. And thank you for Richard Wolff and you, Charlie, great job. My question is, if the sponsors that he say from the campaign, Trump, he was trying to please them. So if these people are living a large percentage of the population with less income, without job, how consumers will consume? For example, you don't have a SNAP. Many people go to the supermarkets. So how they are happy to cut a SNAP, the supermarkets will sell less, and how they are trying to cut prices and everything. I mean, do more profits, but people is being unemployed.
Well, sorry we don't have Professor Wolff to answer that question, but what I can say is that the the farmers market has put together an amazing response. It's just basically become a collection point for people to bring donations of food and supplies. And also these, the standout in Burlington, Massachusetts collects about a ton of food from people who come and bring food. So that's not an answer to the question that Pilar put to us, but it's something that I thought of immediately when you mentioned that. Karen, hi.
Thank you. So I think that all around the world, people have been heartened by what has happened in New York City, and then we have a lot of other people, a lot of very powerful people who are really hoping that the people's movement in New York City does not succeed. And throughout the last, I don't know, 70 years or so, we found that whenever we see a somewhat leftist government or a people's movement start to succeed, we see it undermined. Sometimes overtly, often covertly, through very dirty means. We've seen so many assassinations throughout the years. Often we can't tell who exactly did it, but we pretty much know. We've seen false flags. We've seen economic warfare. Are we concerned about what these people might unleash upon New York City without, and perhaps we won't even know who's doing what? And how can we kind of enlighten the average person who points at socialism and says, well, obviously these people are so stupid because look at all these leftist movements in the past and how no one succeeded. And they don't realize that often they don't succeed because of what the right-wing governments are doing to them, or what intelligence agencies or businesses are doing to them.
And Karen, I will say that the ripe example of that right now is Venezuela. And regardless of what you think of Maduro presidency, read a book by Anya Parampil. It's called Corporate Capitalism, and it is a retelling of the way that the U.S. has betrayed Venezuela and stolen its wealth from its people by basically taking the money from Citgo, who was Venezuela's distributor throughout the country, and redirecting it, and the British theft of Venezuela's gold reserve that is in Venezuelan banks, and it goes from there. And again, no matter what you think of Maduro's presidency, you have to see the bigger thing, and it's just so sad that right now we're reverting to 1920s gunboat diplomacy again. And as Richard Wolff said, it's bound to fail, just like Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine. Tilly Ruth, one of our members of longest standing. Welcome, Tilly Ruth. How are you?
Periods are getting old. But with that, my address when I got out of this meeting is really wasn't talked about, is talk to the younger generation. And I have to say, leaving my kids aside, who were great, but my grandkids are great. And I'm talking about from Boston going west as far as Utah. And taking part, working, the big thing is, which I did here, and which is hard to do, but easy to get people to talk about, is concentrate on getting the tax structure changed and getting corporations to pay at least a tiny bit of their fair share. And that rings a bell with people, as well as the we'll call it all the stuff of the No King's Day going around the country. But it isn't just big cities. I'm talking about the smaller cities, and then of course I am aiming out again into Salt Lake City, which how do you say, the younger generation there is moving. But and my grandkids in Chicago, let alone the couple, New York is one question. You just go with the flow there. But I'm saying go towards the youth. And those are the ones that we need to engage. And I'll leave that, lower taxes and help out where I live in the South End. There's some very, very local stuff trying to help people that get hurt by this latest round of SNAP cuts. But again, the youth, the younger generation, and they're the ones that we need to deal with. And thank you.
Thank you, Tilly Ruth, who was married at Community Church in 1950-something. Long-time member of this church. Unbelievable to have you with us. One last announcement before we close and enjoy lunch, which includes some samplings of last night's magnificent feast. I want to tell you that I'm wearing this hat. It says USS Liberty, AGTR 5. I don't know what that means, but USS Liberty are the recipients of Sacco and Vanzetti Award, Community Church's Sacco and Vanzetti Award, and it will be given to them on December 14th, as well as a co-recipient who are the Gaza Sumud Flotilla. And I am really excited that we will have representatives from both of those wonderful organizations and events, the survivors of USS Liberty and Gaza, in person here to receive the award. Greg Stoker, I don't know if you've ever seen him online, but he works right now with Mint Press News, a much censored YouTube and other platform. Greg was on one of the boats of the flotilla that was all veterans, military veterans, and it was really amazing watching his dispatches from the flotilla, and we'll get a chance to hear from him exactly what happened to him during the whole experience, the sail towards Gaza, and then the arrest, and then the hell holding, and the repatriation of all of them to their countries of origin, included Greta Thunberg as well. It'd be fun to be able to get Greta. But anyway, that's going to be a marvelous event, December 14th, and all the other ones that I've mentioned. So we're just really excited about our upcoming programs. Spread the word about Community Church. We have mailing lists back there. If you're not on it, join, and we will keep you abreast of all things coming at us, coming at you, both here in person or online. Thank you, everybody, and let me end with a joke. And some might not like this joke. What's the difference between capitalism and communism? And the answer is, well, in capitalism, man exploits man. And in communism, the reverse is true. Have a good week, everybody. Do good work, stay in touch, and come back and see us at Community Church of Boston. Over and out. Meeting at the building over.
Thank you.